Hey everyone, Alex here. Creating a podcast with my friends has been one of the most fun things I've done in the last few years, but sometimes dealing with clunky podcast hosting sites and complicated distribution has added stress to the process that I didn't want. That was until I switched to Anchor. I switched to Anchor and haven't looked back. If you haven't heard of Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's totally free. They even have easy-to-use creation tools so that beginners can record straight to their phone or computer. Anchor distributes the podcasts for you, again, all for free, so that it can be heard by more people. They even set you up to make money off your podcast with no minimum listenership, all totally free. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to Survivor Outwatch, a Rewatch podcast. We are here in Survivor Pearl Islands, episode 12, nearing the conclusion of this great season of Survivor. And I am here with three of my friends, and we will be breaking down this episode from the perspective of a Survivor superfan and some newbies to the TV show. So, my name is Alex. I will be guiding you through this adventure, and I'm joined, first of all, by Adam. Hey, welcome to Outwatch, Adam.
What is this?
It's Outwatch.
I'm happy to be here. It is Outwatch.
Yeah. I did a big Survivor themed game with high schoolers that I work with over the summer, and we called it Outlast. So that's where that came from. Hey, in this episode, there's a really awkward date between John and Lil and Dara on a reward. Spoilers for the spoilers that are going to come later. And John really took control, ordering the girls' steaks and everything. And it got me thinking, folks, what's the weirdest date thing that's happened to you? Adam, why don't you start?
I was in high school. I was a senior in high school. I was on a date on New Year's Eve, and I was driving my car on a back street to go to a New Year's Eve party.
I've heard this story.
And right at midnight, I crashed my car.
Yeah.
First date with a girl. It was horrible, and I basically ghosted her after that. So I'm a pretty terrible person.
I don't blame you. Hey, was the problem that
talk about getting some honey or smoking something, drinking something?
You know, if I had Rupert in my life back then, I probably wouldn't have crashed my car.
Rather than a midnight New Year's kiss, you got a New Year's car totaling.
Yep.
Emily, welcome to Outwatch. I almost called it Outlast again.
We're just going to change the name from here on out.
Yeah, right. Hey, what's the
Thanks,
weirdest?
glad to be here.
What's the weirdest date thing that's happened to you?
Adam's was pretty good. Mine wasn't weird. It was just a little awkward. I was kind of seeing this guy in a different state than in where I went to school, so I didn't live there regularly. Mm-hmm. And he was very, very nice. He took me to this place, and it was outside, like the sun was setting, it was pretty, and he was like, now we're gonna kiss, and I was like, no, we're not. And then I was really awkward, and we went home.
Did he say the really words awkward. Now we're gonna kiss?
No.
Okay, thank goodness.
It just kind of happened. It was like, this is when this happens, and I was like, nah. And I was like, gotta go.
Is there a name for this guy?
No. He's anonymous.
There's no name for this person.
It's not Adam.
Nope.
Curious.
You know, my hope for this guy?
I wish their dinglings got stuck on a vine, or I don't know.
Haven't been able to pull that one out very often.
Yeah, that one's unique. No, he was very nice. It was just not meant to be.
Hey, fair enough. Hey, Scott, welcome to Outwatch.
Hey, how's it going?
So good. What's the weirdest date thing that you've experienced?
So I don't know that this one is really all that weird. It's just more an indictment of me as a boyfriend at the time and just a person. So I'm not the most organized person. Just ask my wife; she'll tell you.
My wife.
My wife.
I get called that all the time.
Love that.
I don't know what that is, but
The reference to the hit 2008 film Borat.
Even like at work, whenever because like I work with plenty of people that are married, and like a thing that you do, I guess, when you're married is you refer to my wife. Whenever anyone says my wife, that's how I respond. My wife.
I do reference my wife as my wife quite a bit. But no, it was Valentine's Day, and it was my freshman year at IU, and she was a senior in high school. So she was coming to see me that night, and I did not have anything planned. So I'm like, we'll just go somewhere. It'll work out. So we get to wherever we're going, and it's like a 3-hour wait because it's freaking Valentine's Day, right? So, moral of the story, we wanted to get like Chinese, like a buffet China place. And she was like, I came all the way up to Bloomington. And I'm like, yeah.
Classic Quad Scott.
Yeah, we enjoyed
You didn't act like the restaurant lost your reservation or something? Like,
I'm not that good, man. No. It was a good night, but yeah. So that's what comes to mind.
I just want to make it clear to all the viewers out there.
I'm a great date.
That was, of course, ripped from the scene from John. I did go on a date with a girl it was a first date who did tell me that she is divorced on that first date, which, like, okay, whatever. And in the grand scheme of things, if it's not that big of a deal, but it was very alarming as, like a 24-year-old at the time who's going on a date with a girl who, she also told me she was like 30. So, yeah.
There you go.
what?
Yeah. She didn't look it, so
Alex, we used to be close. I don't know what happened to us.
Anyway, let's talk about Survivor. Oh, Jesus.
Far more real than any of us are ready for.
Oh, great. So Survivor Pearl Islands, episode 12. Another great episode, really getting into the nitty gritty here of this season. Let's start by walking through what happened in this episode by taking the road down to Tree Mail. Piece by piece. So it starts with Sandra and Krista having second thoughts at camp about voting with John and Bert. Almost immediately, they're like, that was maybe not a good idea. And they're reasoning with that decision that they've made. At the reward challenge, they've got a water obstacle course. They're broken up into 2 teams to compete in that. And the winners are Lil, Dara, and John after Sandra shows again an inability to swim. Bert is back at camp, pressured by Krista and Sandra to try and get information and a commitment out of him. And he kind of pushes back, doesn't really give them what they're looking for. Meanwhile, at the reward challenge, Lil is filling John in on what Sandra and Krista have been telling her. And then John throws Krista under the bus with both Lil and Dara, kind of pointing her as a next target. But again, meanwhile, Bert is really considering taking Krista to the Final Four. He thinks that she's someone that will be loyal to him and easy to beat at the end. But again, we're going back and forth. It's really interesting. John makes a final 2 deal with Dara, promising her a final 2 if they go together. And she inexplicably believes this, as if we have never spent any time with Johnny Fairplay to this point. We've got a musket shooting competition for the immunity challenge, which Dara wins, on brand for her. And back at camp, Krista feels pretty vulnerable. Sandra is convincing her, or trying to convince her, that she'll be okay. They want to get Bert out, but Krista feels the heat a little bit. People are really, really looking towards the end at this point in the game. And it turns out that Krista is indeed voted out. Her suspicion was valid, and by a vote of 4-2, Krista becomes the next person voted out of this game. And with that, we're down to 5 left in the game, and Krista is eliminated from the game of Survivor and also from the Jameis Winston tribe. Scott, how did it feel losing Krista?
It's a big blow to my team. I wish I could say I didn't see it coming, but you kind of got the sense that her days were becoming numbered. So, it's a big blow, but hopefully Burton does not get voted out
Your
anytime
son.
soon. My son, Burton. Yeah,
My son.
It's really interesting how the targets over the last few episodes have shifted. Again, with this kind of voting blocks idea, it's not like there's one alliance that's running the show and voting out the other alliance. You had Krista this episode, who was with Sandra and Lil to some degree. Before that, it was T, who was with Dara for the most part. Before that, it was Rupert, who was with Krista and Sandra. People really are just kind of pinpointing who they want to get out and voting them out, regardless of kind of their alliance distinctions, Let's start all the way at the beginning. What was y'all's favorite moment or favorite theme from this episode of Survivor? Scott, you want to go first?
Sure. The big thing that I can remember exactly was the musket shooting competition. When I remember distinctly watching this saying, this Dara's totally going to win this.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
And sure enough, she hoists that thing up and she went 3 for 3. And I was like, yep, that makes sense. Yeah. And I just remember that and then just laughing at, I think, Krista, who couldn't hold it.
Yeah.
Right.
Jeff was like, you ever shot a gun before? Here, let me help.
And somebody was making the hand gesture. She was making fun of her in the background. So that's probably my favorite thing I could think of.
Yeah. Anybody else with a favorite moment from this episode other than that one?
I loved the beginning of the episode where Sandra and Krista have instant regret for not voting out the strongest player in the game.
Yeah.
He's maybe we made the wrong choice. No, you definitely made the wrong choice.
Mm-hmm. They've got another shot at him this episode too.
Yeah, which leads into the end of this episode where they could learn from their mistakes and they don't. Yeah. And then one of them goes home. That's
true.
Because put on your tinfoil hat, ladies and gentlemen.
Stop it.
Script it.
Oh my God.
I didn't know what to say to that.
Yeah.
Moving forward, I did love that I love the Krista thing because it was Jeff jumped pretty quickly into helping her. I'm going to throw that out there. Pretty quickly into helping her.
He probably was just concerned.
And then she goes, and then she hits the first target, hits her second target, and bounces off the wood on her third target.
Yeah, I thought maybe she was faking it. Because I remember really early in the season, they had the bug eating contest or something disgusting. He made smoothies. And was it Dara who was fine with that? But they were like, oh, pretend like it grosses you out so that
Michelle.
we can have an advantage. Yeah,
Little
and I was
Michelle.
like, oh, maybe she's faking it again. And she maybe was. I don't know. She went from I don't even know how to hold a gun to I'm going to hit every single target.
Yeah.
It was a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
I really thought the strategy talk happening simultaneously at the reward and at camp was really compelling. You've got these two people who are hoping that the other person in John and Burton are talking strategy and that they'll be on the same page, but they're kind of making different plans. And it makes you wonder if that comes to a head at all or when it does. They have a little bit of a discussion about it, but it also is a testament in that discussion to how fully John is running the show, because he's like, no, this is what we ought to do. And Burton's like, man, I'd like to keep Krista, but okay, John wants to do this. So it could have been a move where Burton could have said, all right, now is the time to break with John, get Sandra and Krista on board with him, maybe pull Lil too and do what he wants to do instead. But he deferred to John's thoughts.
Because of 2 words.
What were those 2 words?
Deniability.
All right. at the very beginning, again, like you're continuing to see Sandra's like strength in this game, which is her people management, the rallying people to do what she wants, the way that she's like talking to Dara and getting her on board with her, which ends up kind of like not being successful because John then comes in and does it better. But Sandra, again, is kind of like flexing those muscles of rallying people to do what she wants. What'd you guys think of this reward challenge, the water obstacle course?
It was interesting to me that there were some people who were just going to do a bunch of work, and then there were just some people who were kind of along for the ride, and it was all up to chance based on the position that they got. So when Sandra she was in the first position and had to do the most swimming. And she already was like, oh crap, this isn't going to go well. And then she was really struggling and they kind of couldn't make it up from that point. So I don't know if that was, it was chance, like what position they got, but it also seemed like it was just relying on a couple of people. Yeah.
Maybe Sandra would be better in these water challenges if she chose not to wear her like full linen suit in the water.
She had like the biggest pants on. It was waterlogged.
Yeah, you'd think that that's not the best garb for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate that the teams couldn't strategize that.
Yeah.
Like that was very strange. It's not very often. Like usually it's like, okay, we're going to draw for teams. We're going to give you a minute to strategize. Like that's part of Jeff's statement.
Right.
This one was literally, we're going to draw for teams and spots.
Yeah.
You have no strategy. Like it's just.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that too.
Position one is good.
Right. Yeah, I found that to be interesting. I called this one the topless water challenge because there were lots of tops coming off, lots of blurs happening. The blur artist really got his money's worth in this episode.
I think on this challenge, I just realized how long they've been on this show just because they're all wearing pieces of cloth and they're all really skinny and they're like exhausted and
the energy reserves have to be running really low.
Yeah, right.
And I remember watching Survivor a little bit when I was younger, and I don't remember watching Survivor and thinking, wow, these people look like really thin. Like it's kind of almost problematic how thin they look. So it was interesting kind of this episode where that was really, it was pointed out in a couple different ways, I guess.
Yeah.
Or even Dara's like, I've lost weight. And it's like, yeah, you didn't have any weight to lose.
Yeah.
Like,
there's the best like known scene of that. It was in Survivor season 2 in Australia where they like get a mirror to camp like towards the end of the game, like around this time. And like, they're like looking at themselves and like freaking out, like having these, like really troubling responses because they're like, oh my God, like I look terrible. Like one girl's hair was kind of falling out because she was like pretty malnourished, It was, pretty wild. At the reward where they were like flown to this resort and got food and a weird date with John, we did get another artful Dara shower shot. It's been a while.
I was so upset about that. I was like, listen, we've already had a shower. And of course you chose to just linger on Dara. Great. And then they did it again.
Yep.
This one is worse.
No, go ahead, Scott.
I would say this one's worse because the other one, it's like you can make like the argument, okay, it's out in the open, whatever. This one she was clearly in a bathroom,
right?
So that's my thought on it.
Well, and then we got to the massages, and it's like we get Lily's head, and we get John's head, and then we get Dara's full body in a bikini being massaged.
Wonder why?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not my favorite.
Yeah. Could you imagine
early
like
2000s, man?
Yeah. Like Dara's, like in the bathroom taking a shower and then it's like, It's production. We want to get some shower shots. Dara, are you? Yeah. Can we come?
Right.
Can we come in?
In fairness, we didn't talk about this last episode, but Dara's dream career,
Modeling.
being a model.
Yeah. So maybe she was great with it.
I don't know if this is what she envisioned.
This was her opportunity. She was like, "Look what I can do."
Yeah. Here we are.
Maybe she pushed it. Maybe it's empowering.
Maybe
It's
she
probably not, but
Yeah, maybe she said, "Hey, as many shower shots as you can give me, the better."
Specifically shower.
I wish
the only way it could be
got stuck on
tasteful.
the binders. I don't know.
Super tasteful. Yeah, they had like the nice lace shower curtain, so you could just see through enough. Really artistic stuff.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I rolled my eyes. I was not happy.
I also noted that John looked a lot like a prequel era Jedi in those robes when like his hair slicked back.
Yeah.
With his hair all slicked back. And everything.
He would definitely be one who would succumb to the dark side.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt.
Anakin fair play.
That's what they called him.
That's canon. That's canon.
That's canon. Emily asked if they got razors.
Yeah, you'd think they get all the shampoo and stuff. And then John did not shave his beard. And it made me wonder if they had razors.
That's a good question.
I would assume that would be part of the luxury package.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing that like the implication of this is like they're like, oh, you get your bathing suit that you brought along with you.
Mm-hmm.
It went through their luggage.
Yeah, that's true.
The production team had to go through their luggage to get that.
Yeah. They're also shooting shots of them 24/7. So
Yeah. It made me wonder about all the waivers they had to sign to be on the show.
Everything. You sign your life away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also non-disclosures. You can't tell anyone about anything.
Yeah.
You can only tell like a handful of people that you're actually going on Survivor. Everyone else you're not supposed to tell.
Does grandma count?
I don't know. I guess so. Did Johnny tell his grandma that he was going on Survivor so that he could lie about her?
Now.
Who knows?
If you had to bring, this is about last episode.
Yeah.
This is something we should have talked about last episode. If you were going, which loved one would you bring on to Survivor if you were a contestant?
I was going to mention again last episode, but I failed to, that in the two of you getting married, you've now kind of like cemented each other as like, if you were to ever do a blood versus water season, you would probably be, each other's blood in that season. So congrats on that part too.
I feel like Michael and I would be a much better blood versus water, though.
Like it'd be more like a cutthroat.
Yeah, Michael is my younger brother. I feel like we'd just be a better TV pairing.
I could see that.
That would be compelling. That would be very compelling.
This question actually has troubled me because
Yeah, go on.
I've like thought about this, like, oh, who would I bring? And I don't have a good answer.
Okay. Who, like, right now, let's say you're going on Survivor. They're like, we need two people.
Yeah,
that
I know.
we might potentially bring onto the show. Who are they?
Yeah, it's like there's not really a good option. Like, love my family and dearly if you're listening, but like, I mean, all of my family members. My mom would not be good on that show. My dad would get me in trouble.
Oh, I want your dad on that show so bad.
It's not going to happen. It would probably be like Andy and then Nate. My two brothers would be the two people highest on my list. I have no one who loves me, so.
Ready to cry.
Scott?
What?
What?
Who's your person? Do you bring Whitney or is it?
I bring Whitney.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
What's your relation to Whitney, Scott?
She's my wife.
My wife.
But if Whitney didn't want to, I don't know who I would bring. That's a tough one. So,
Ryder.
My dog Ryder. God, I don't wish that on anyone.
Ryder is their dog.
I was hoping it was a dog. Yes.
He's our dog. He's a heathen.
He's a demon.
He's a demon. Perhaps I would bring one of you two. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe, I don't know. Oh.
I just I would feel like such a dope to like bring, like, I feel like anybody who's on Survivor and, you know, it's like, here's your wife, here's your husband, here's your mom. And it's like, here's your buddy, Adam. I feel like, yeah, I know, guys, I suck. I'm sorry. I've got no one better than my friend. Like, you know what I mean?
Worse than high school sweetheart turned friend.
Friend. Yeah. Right. At least there's a defined relationship between those people.
That's true. Hey, if I ever go on Survivor and any of you are my loved one, I just want to make it clear. I want you to lie about my grandma dying.
I'm going to. If Survivor calls me and is like, hey, Alex wants you as his loved one on Survivor, I'm going to say, okay, but only if you introduce us as friends with benefits.
That would be so funny. Or like if they refuse to do it, you like stop and it's like, Jeff, that's not what our relationship is.
Read it.
Say what you're supposed to say.
I feel like Jeff would read it.
He probably would.
He would be so fine with that.
In a sexual way.
Emily, who would you bring?
So are we talking about like bringing a loved one for a challenge?
Yeah, like the loved one's visit.
Like,
yeah. Okay. All right. I guess I've cemented myself to Adam, as we've said. Mm-hmm. I'd also, yeah, depending on the challenge, I'd feel very comfortable bringing you, Alex, because you are the Survivor.
Oh, thank you.
Know all, be all.
Yeah. It's sort of like bringing a coach into the game, huh?
Yeah.
You could bring Benjamin Coach Wade of Survivor fame.
See, these are the things that you know that are important.
I actually met Benjamin Coach Wade one time.
Are you freaking kidding me?
He was my uncle's assistant coach.
Are you kidding me?
No, not lying.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
The Dragon Slayer himself?
The Dragon Slayer.
Oh my God.
The Blackberry Finding Fool.
The Dragon Slayer.
You have met Survivor royalty, dude.
Yeah, I met him before he was on Survivor, though. So.
That's insane. Is he as wild in person as he is on the show?
I met him when I was like 13. Like he was, he seemed kind of weird, but not like.
Did he have the ponytail back then?
I think he did, yeah.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah. I was like watching it. I was like, this guy kind of looks familiar. My dad like looks up and he's like, oh yeah, that's Steve's old assistant coach.
What? Yeah. That's insane, man. I would love it if somebody I knew was on Survivor, or if I was on it. That'd be cool too.
CBS.
At CBS. I think in this sequence too, where there's people at the reward and people back at camp, we kind of mentioned it earlier, but get a clear picture of how much Bert relies on John for strategy at this point. When he's pressured by Sandra and Krista, he kind of doesn't give him anything because I think he's kind of like afraid to say the wrong thing or whatever. And John, on the other hand, is making moves at the reward. And so, again, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but say what you will about John's social performance. Strategically, he's very strong. And Bert, even as his closest alliance, really like relies on him for that, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Like it was kind of, I thought it was kind of interesting how like they hadn't spoken really about that at all. Like that moved in our last episode. So when they go to talk to Burton about it, he literally did not know anything about it.
Yeah.
So I did find that to be interesting. And it's like John is like 2 steps ahead of that even at this point. He's already like on to the next thing. And yeah, it does not look good on Burton there.
What do you think about John's plays there at the reward of promising Dara a final 2, of kind of ribbing Lil a little bit and making her go to bed early and mope? How would you rate John's overall strategic performance there during the reward?
I think it's good, but also the dare thing, I don't know how necessary that really was. I mean, I guess it's good to like lock in that person. Like same thing with like the Lil, like how, I don't know what the purpose is of like ticking her off to where she has to go to bed or whatever. But
yeah,
I mean, it's just John being John. He's playing the game his
Can't
way.
stop
And
playing.
What was that?
I said he can't stop playing.
Just can't stop playing. No, and he's definitely making moves.
Yeah.
I wonder too if making Lil kind of the outcast in the three of them made him seem more like chummy with Dara, so that she would trust him a little bit more and be like, "Oh, we're pals, you know.
Yeah.
We're getting massages and having a great time, and we feel confident that we could make an alliance to the end."
Yeah.
Yeah. I almost don't want to give him that much credit, though.
Yeah, I don't feel like that would be intentional. I feel like maybe it happened a little bit, though.
I think we're at a phase in the game where the thing is, I don't think John is thinking about the end game too much. I think he's thinking, how do I get through this next tribal council? I think he likes to think that he's, thinking about the end game, but his real goal right now is, how do I make it so that way I'm through this tribal council and, these are sort of my bottom tier picks and I get them gone.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just, he's making so many promises to people. And if Sandra was literally like at tribal council, like he promised me, we'd go top 2. Who else did he promise I would go top 2 with? Like, just say that, you can't trust a word he says because he promised everyone. So he's going to break 90% of the promises he makes.
Yeah.
Maybe he's like the Joker and he just wants to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
So he's just inciting chaos.
An agent of chaos.
That's a good point, though, because like Scott, you said like maybe it's unnecessary. That makes sense where if like at some point, if you just keep making all these promises, that's just more and more that you're going to have to break because you can't keep all of them simultaneously, So that like if he doesn't follow through on that, that's another person who, if John does make it to the end, would maybe have a sour taste about him because he would promise them something that he didn't follow through on. I thought for as much as Bert maybe kind of fumbles over the interactions with Kristen and Sandra, I thought he had some really good observations in this episode and in the previous one that we didn't really talk about either. But he talks about like his whole good cop, bad cop thing with John, which we kind of mentioned last episode, I think is a really smart strategy to like pair up with this person who's being outwardly the jerk and like doing the same good moves with him, but being like kind about it, I thought that was a really smart like assessment and showed that maybe there is like some intentionality behind what he's doing.
Well, I don't know. Burton demonstrated that he can make moves. He was the one who started the whole Rupert,
right.
The Rupert vote. Like he's demonstrated that he can win people over to his side. He made a move at a good time. And I think he's just sort of in this position now where he's like, John is making so many ridiculous decisions. It's not in his best interest to start like, well, maybe I'll make a decision about this or decision about that. It's just sort of like he's in a position where he can ride it out.
Yeah, he's like almost like frustrating to me because he'll say something like this good cop, bad cop thing, which I'm like, dude, that's really smart, really good. And then follow it up with the Lil saying like, are we still final 2? And his saying like, oh, I don't know. Like, that's so dumb. Just say yes. Yeah.
Right.
Like this is a thing that like Survivor thought people, there's a better word than that. Survivor people say before that like on Survivor
analysts.
Yeah, Survivor analysts. Thank you.
No problem.
Like on Survivor, the answer is always yes. Like whenever anyone approaches you with anything, the answer is always yes. Like without it being a hard confirmation, if she's like, hey, we're still good for final 2, right? You say, yeah, yep, we're good. And then it's over, and you business as usual. But to say like, actually, I'm kind of having second thoughts. We'll see how it goes. I'm not quite sure yet. That spins her into a tailspin now. And she's paranoid and thinking about voting him out,
Right. She's more prone to going to someone and figuring out how to vote you out then.
Right. And the damage that would be caused by maybe changing your mind on that later or whatever is not as big, or at least as present as the paranoia and stuff that you're creating in Lil by saying, well, I don't know anymore,
Right.
Yeah. Especially if I've already said I've got John, he's the bad cop. If you admit basically John is there to take the hits for you, you could easily pawn that off on John later anyway.
Yeah.
If you did flip on Lil or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you've created a problem where there wasn't one.
Yeah.
Well, and the question I keep asking myself is there a position where Burton could vote for, so everyone's voting out Sandra. Sandra's gone no matter what, but Burton doesn't vote for Sandra, or Burton votes for someone else, so that way later on he can say, I didn't vote for you. They can try to drag me into that, but end of the day, I did not vote for you there.
Yeah. It's an interesting idea.
It's a risky play,
right?
Because you can never predict everyone else. But I'm really curious if that ever could work out in your favor.
It would also then raise alarms to the people that you're playing with that are still in the game of dude, what's the deal here? Why didn't you vote with him?
Well, that's the thing, but no one knows who voted. So in theory, later in the game like this is definitely going to be harder because there are fewer people and
right. You can figure it out.
There's a situation where you could pull that off, where you could walk back and say, no, I voted for them.
Yeah.
But then in the final be I lied to them. I didn't vote for that person.
Right. I'm trying to think if there's an example of that I can think of in Survivor, and nothing's coming to the front of mind.
And how valuable that might actually be is probably seriously up for debate.
Right.
But, it was just a thought I had this episode specifically.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I can't think of an example of someone doing that before. Let me know in the comments if you have a good example of that. Let's talk about the immunity challenge, the musket shooting one, which horse girl Dara wins, as you would expect her to. She
kills people before she embalms.
Oh God, is she Dexter?
Probably.
Bum, bum,
She's a mortician. She wants to be a model. I'm so confused. Dara is the most fascinating person, and we don't get to see her at all.
Yeah.
She's on the cover of Caskets Weekly.
Oh man. Is Dara perhaps the best horse girl to ever play Survivor?
Tell us in the comments below. Right?
Yeah. Man, I thought calling Dara a horse girl would get a bigger laugh out of you guys. It's disappointing.
I don't fully understand the reference.
Horse girl?
Yeah.
The horse girl is it's kind of like a meme sort of thing where it's the horse girl is everybody knows this girl in high school or whatever who is pretty country and loves horses, has a horse. Everybody knows that sort of person, and they're one in if you know one horse girl, you know them all.
Right.
Dara is horse girl to the extreme. I was gonna say definitely as this challenge start though, and I saw that they were shooting guns. I was like, yeah, Dara's got this one.
Yeah.
Another not super compelling immunity challenge to watch. It's people shooting guns. Cool.
Yeah, it wasn't very interesting.
No.
I mean, it was, and I was curious, how many of the flags actually caught on fire after they got hit, or how many
I
were
wondered that too.
Burned after the fact they got hit.
Yeah,
it's production stuff. It just seems like they have a lot of this could be a cool idea, and then they do it, and they're like, well, we can't redo it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just feel like everything has to be set on fire, or they have to break things. I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Otherwise, it's not cool.
Yeah.
Right.
So
they
they
are
have to
sticking with
break
their pirate
or get
theme,
caught on fire.
though.
That's true.
I imagine that's part of the struggle is they're probably trying to avoid like, oh, this takes place on a pirate boat and this takes place on a pirate boat. Like they're probably just trying to avoid like, you know, staging themes and like, well, what's like interesting? What did pirates do?
Yeah.
Also, this challenge did not take a long time to show.
No.
And there was a lot more time that was devoted to strategy and conversation. So maybe that was, I don't know if that was intentional, but it worked out.
That's true.
Definitely.
Yeah, I can't wait for next week, which I'm pretty sure is the sword fighting
What?
challenge. Yeah, someone actually gets their arm cut off.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Big deal.
You didn't call that in the top 3.
Yeah, Lil loses a limb. It's really tough. Tough look for Survivor. Krista really,
it's all right.
Krista really was like inches away from winning this. If Krista ended up winning this challenge, who do you guys think goes home if she is immune?
I'm going to say Burton.
Do you?
Yeah. He's who got the second most votes, right? He got votes this time, right?
I'm trying to remember. I believe so.
No, it was Lil.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, it was Lil.
It was like 2 votes to Lil and then 3 to Krista or something like that.
Yeah, Sandra and Krista voted Lil.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think that maybe would have swung back on Lil then, or do you think they would have said, well, if Krista's safe, we'll take Sandra out?
I was wondering if they might have targeted Sandra.
Yeah. Seems like just for whatever reason, they just get fixated on a person, kind of, it seems arbitrarily.
I don't know. I like they should take out Burton. I don't know why they don't take out Burton.
It's so frustrating.
But yeah, I feel like they probably would have gone for Sandra. I feel like they still don't think Dare is a threat, so why go for her?
Well, she was immune too, so.
I mean, if Chris said
you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have been Dara. Especially after T going out last week. I could see them getting Dara out there.
Yeah, I feel like she's just so weak, though. Like, she just kind of does whatever the last person told her to do. Like, there's a reason Sandra went for T last week, like, to try and get her on her side.
Right.
You know, it was because she didn't think she could do it with Dara. Mm-hmm. And it turns out she couldn't do it with Dara.
Yeah, I guess John probably wouldn't have wanted to get Dara out since they had just had that conversation. I think that this episode is where you really see the shift and people really starting to look towards the end. You've got people talking about final twos, talking less about just like surviving a vote, but putting yourself in the best situation to get to the end and therefore win. You see that in the conversations, especially at Tribal. This was a really good Jeff Tribal, I thought. The way that he kind of like got stuff out of them and kind of like rolled with the punches. I think, was this the one where he like asked them to like rank how confident they are? Oh, yeah. Like, are you confident in your alliances? You know?
Do you trust your alliance or something? Do you trust your relationships or something like that?
Yeah.
Like,
And like everybody says yes.
After the vote, he was like, yeah, so you're all just really good liars. So we'll see where this goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was interesting.
I think it's always compelling when Jeff pulls that sort of thing because it creates something. Speaking from my limited experience as a host of a Survivor-like game, there were a few times at Tribal where like, this is so stupid and no one cares about this, but like there was a Tribal where I asked everybody like pretty early on in the Tribal, I was like, who like, because people were like speaking pretty confidently. I was like, does anyone here like feel not confident, like feel uneasy that it could be them? And like no one raised their hands. And I'm like, all right, if y'all feel good, let's vote. And we went right into it and it was pretty cool. Go to socc.org/outlast to watch my Survivor game that I produced. It's really fun. It's with high schoolers. Finale coming soon.
We also would like to, if we're plugging things.
Oh yeah, plug away.
myself, Emily, and Scott are actually starting a sub podcast called Out Listen, where we're listening to Outwatch
And
and then talking about it. So, a little commentary on the commentary. It's pretty fun.
Real let you in behind the scenes of how we do what we do.
So what did you guys think when Alex said that one thing? Oh, that was real dumb.
It's a lot of attacking Alex. Let's be honest.
I thought of that last episode, and I was like, I gotta hang on to that nugget.
Now I know how Jesus felt.
You can really see how Alex ups his interview game from episode 1 through episode 12.
Yeah. I don't know if this was just like my TV or whatever, but when you guys were watching the Tribal Council, were the voting booth confessionals like unintelligible? I didn't understand a word they said in the voting booth.
I'm trying to think. I think the only thing that I heard was like Sandra said like this is, or Krista said this is who everyone else is voting for, or something like that was the only thing I heard.
Oh yeah, no, Sandra said about Lil, you're really nice, but I can't have you in the final because people will vote for you because you're nice. So this is not personal. It's strategic. That's what I remember.
I think there were like 2 others where they didn't show the votes, but you like heard the voiceover, right?
Yeah.
And I could not understand anything. It was just like
closed captioning, Alex.
Seriously, they needed
that's
it.
what it was. We had that on.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, they were fine.
Yeah, you guys watch show with captions, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
Sure
We're
do.
those people.
It's disappointing.
I can't hear the show over my chip munching. So.
It's actually really fun on Survivor because, for example, in the last challenge with the gun shooting, the closed caption comes on early. So you'll see the last thing they said plus the next thing they'll say. Like, Dara goes up to shoot. Will she make it? And then right under it's like, Dara hits it. And then she hits it. I'm like, well, I already know what happens.
Yeah. Spoilers, closed captioning. Come on.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
When you talked about the chips, it made me think of this story. When I was in high school, one time I got in trouble for like eating a crunchy snack. They were like, the teacher was like,
but like, where
Alex,
were you? Because that's some context
just in
we
class.
need.
Just in class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like at your house?
No. And it was because it was like loud and disruptive, not because I wasn't supposed to be eating a snack. He was like,
as someone who has lived with you, who loves and cares for you, Alex, and who also makes some mouth noises when he chews. You make some mouth noises when you chew.
Do I?
Yeah.
Huh. I was never actually aware of that. I'm going to be deeply self-conscious about this now.
There you go. Here's the thing. I wasn't really that aware of it. And then Emily won't eat with me unless like the radio is on or something to drown out the horrible mouth noises I make.
You're being dramatic.
Oh, yeah.
Good to know. I'll check that out next time.
I don't know how to control it. It's still a problem for me. So I don't.
Anything else from Tribal or anything to talk about? I guess like I had the question at the end, like why Krista? Of all the possible targets on the board here, what makes Krista like the person worth using a vote on here?
If it's me, coming from John's perspective, I am looking to get rid of Burton and take Sandra to the final.
Why would you take Sandra to the final?
Because I think people don't. I think he thinks that she's abrasive. She's not putting together a decent strategy, so he can argue that he played a better game. This, that, and the other.
It's interesting because I think 2 times in this episode it came up that Krista has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Yeah, I never caught that before now.
Me either. And so I'm kind of wondering, why John wouldn't want to keep her in longer. Like if he took her to the finals, apparently she's got people who don't like her. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's
an
also
asset to him.
I mean, no, I guess they wouldn't know about the fish thing. They blame Krista for that.
True.
I don't know. I'm just very curious because like she yelled the second she got at John, the second she got back from council after Rupert and after, whatever. Like she's very loud. And I think John thinks that he has a better shot against her. If I'm John, I think I have a good shot against her.
Yeah.
Or Barra for that matter.
It's also
But
worth
she actually wants some immunity, so.
True.
Man, Dara's going to be our survivor, isn't she?
I called it.
It's also worth asking why no one's really taken a shot at John in this phase of the game either. I think the answer is that he does a really good job of convincing people to vote with him, such that if and when that ever does come up, we saw last episode when it was on Burton, he was really able to swing a bunch of people together to convince them to vote with him,
Yeah, his social game is so good that people don't feel the need to get rid of him right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a weird social game, too, because it's not like he's well-liked.
Or trusted.
But
he can convince people.
Yeah, he just somehow manages to make people think, like, this is in our best interest.
Right. Yeah, he does a good job of, like, talking them into, for you, this is a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else from this episode we missed?
John ordered food for all of the ladies.
Yes.
And proceeded to talk about how much he knows about fine dining immediately after saying chicken fingers would be a great appetizer.
That's a great point.
Which I made. That was my point.
Emily pointed it out.
I did not. Yeah, I was a little incensed that he was like, oh, yeah, I'll order for everyone. Like, I'm so cocky and whatever.
I'm a great date.
Yeah. He's not my favorite person. Outside of the game, he just seems not nice to ladies. But then he's like, oh, yes, I ordered the bruschetta along with the chicken fingers. Okay, you toddler.
The fact that he said, oh, chicken fingers sounds great. And then he said, I know a lot about like fine cuisine is great. I didn't catch that. That's really good.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and catch everybody up on our fantasy Outlast. God. Fantasy Survivor pool. Jeez. This week has really evened things up, fam.
It's the worst.
The Lil John tribe. Emily, you got 2 points from John for voting correctly, surviving, and also winning reward. 1.5 points from Lil for winning reward. And did I calculate this incorrectly, actually? Lil won reward.
She voted correctly. She voted correctly.
And yeah, so she should have 2 too. Cool. That changes that.
No, she gets a 0.5 point for voting correctly.
Yeah, so she gets a 0.5 point for voting correctly, 0.5 point for surviving, and 1 point for winning reward.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. Sorry.
So 2 points there. Sandra gets a point for voting correctly. No,
she didn't vote correctly.
Yeah, man, I really goofed this.
Sandra gets a 0.5 point for her surviving, right?
0.5 point for surviving. That's right. And Scott, you got 0 points from Krista because she did nothing well. And 1.5 points from Bert. No, 1 point for Burton.
Because he
for voting correctly and surviving. Dude, this makes it even better. Everybody has 28 points.
Yeah.
It is back to square one.
We're back to square
a
one.
completely tie game.
Lil Jon still has 2 people in it.
You're
Yes,
right.
because one was added, but that's fine.
Loud the sequel only has Sandra, and Winston has his son Burton.
Yeah,
That's my son.
that's my son.
I wish I had maybe I'll make an audio clip of Scott not actually saying that's my son, but me thinking that he said that's my son, and put that in my
Wait,
soundboard.
what?
That's how that came about. Is you said like that's right, son, but I thought you said that's my son, and I thought it was so funny. So if you missed that in all of that chaos, all 3 tribes have 28 points. It is a 3-way tie. The Outwatch fantasy game is rigged and scripted.
It's scripted. Outwatch is scripted. You heard it here.
But Outlisten is not.
No.
Yeah, Outlisten is real. So let me ask then, at this point, we have 2 episodes left in this show. Lil Jon still has both Lil and John. The Lancaster tribe has just Sandra. The Jameis Winston tribe has just Burton. How confident do you feel about your chances here, or who do you think will come out on top of our fantasy game?
Yeah, I feel like John will hopefully get me a lot of points, but I don't see him or Lil actually winning.
I would say what this comes down to is who has the people in the final, because it's the every vote received the final tribal that's going to push them over the edge at this point.
That's totally going to be it. It's whoever has the winner on their tribe right now is going to win the game.
Yeah,
Unless it's Dara.
Unless it's Dara.
Unless it's Dara,
sitting
which
here
would
on
be
no tribe.
crazy.
Yeah.
That would be honestly hilarious.
It would be pretty funny.
Yeah. Because Emily's going to take, I mean, assuming that Lil or John don't get voted out and Dara does, then Emily's going to take a little bit of a lead here in the next episode.
Yeah.
But it's just going to come down to the final. Like,
Yeah. The some of these points here at the very end, you're going to get a point for every player left on your team at the finale. So there's going to be 4 people left in the show for the final episode. You're going to get a point automatically for them just being there. You're going to get a point every time that someone survives a tribal. So there's 2 more possible points per person in that final episode, because it gets down to a final 2. And then, most importantly, you get 2 points for every vote received at final tribal. So I guess maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be the winner if it's a really close vote, and you've got enough other points. But if it's a landslide vote at the end, it's almost definitely going to be whoever has the winner.
right.
Yeah.
I
We'll
don't feel
see.
confident.
You don't feel confident?
I don't. I'm sorry, Sandra.
Yeah, we said from the beginning, like, it's going to be a lot of points for the winner, but, I mean, Survivor's about winning at the end, you know, so you should be rewarded for picking the person who ends up winning, so that person certainly will be rewarded.
It's also nice to know that, because when we picked this, we picked it while they were still teams.
Yeah, this was we picked going into the 4th episode.
4th episode. It's nice to know that even really early on, we somehow managed to get a pretty even spread.
Yeah, that's true.
Agreed.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it looked like for a while there, Adam, that you were running away with things. You were up
I
by
know,
like,
I was, but then
up by like
everyone
5
on my team
points.
fell apart.
Yeah.
Died. They're all dead to me.
And John and Lil have just been showing out for the last like 4 episodes.
That's the thing. When was the last time Lil Jon, the last person that Lil Jon lost is Michelle? Or was it Austin? Austin would have probably gone first. Or later.
The last person Tribe Lil Jon lost was Savage.
Yeah.
Oh, Savage. I forgot about
time
that.
ago.
But then you got Lil back when she came back into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Or we put Lil on your team when she came back into the game. That's right. Lil Jon should be disqualified. We don't.
No, we talked through this. You guys all agreed to allow Lil to join this tribe.
We agreed.
See, my grandma died. Okay.
I also just want to point out here the voting correctly stuff. Since the merge, John has voted correctly every single time. Since the merge, Lil has voted correctly every single time, which is big. Yep, Burton's voted correctly every single time.
He would have voted with Rupert until he turned on him, and then he ran with John. So
yeah, Dara has not. But yeah, a few of these players left have voted very well so far.
Yeah.
We count that, of course, because one of the classic and easy ways that you judge a character's or a player's performance is how often you vote correctly. And correctly being voting for the person who goes home, because it shows that you are aware of what's going on and a part of it. And voting incorrectly is just a step below getting voted out yourself. Because you too have been blindsided. You thought that something else was going to happen and it didn't.
Yeah.
It just happened to be the target was someone other than you.
This is a really good fantasy survivor system.
You think?
I think so.
Yeah, we can reevaluate for the next season, but if point totals need to be changed or anything, I'd love to incorporate a winner pick thing in it too. This is a thing I've done in other Survivor Fantasy things where at the very beginning when we draft our teams, we'd also make a winner pick, regardless of that person is on our tribe or not.
Okay.
And every time if that person gets voted out, you would then make another one, but you'd get fewer points at the end based on how recently you've made the pick,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, we'll figure it out.
I'm also interested to see it when we actually have a season with an idle clue or advantage.
Yeah,
to
that'll
see how
change
that
things.
actually plays into it.
Yeah.
No.
Cool. Well, the end of this season of Survivor is thrilling, and so will be the end of our fantasy season. So stick around, follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, follow us on Twitter at Outwatch Podcast to be with us through the rest of the way. Next time on Outwatch, we will dig into episode 13 of Survivor Pearl Islands, titled Mutiny. And then after that, it'll be our big finale episode, which you won't want to miss either. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.